Hey, what is up everyone? Today we're taking a look at a show that should have never been cancelled. Now, many great shows are cancelled all the time for a numerous amount of reasons. Whether it's just it failed to find an audience quick enough, maybe the show's budget was too high, the actors just didn't want to do it anymore, or maybe the creators just had no idea where to take the story next. There are many reasons why a show may be cancelled, but in today's video we're taking a look at a show that does not fit any of those standard reasons for being cancelled and definitely should have been continued. And that show is The Society on Netflix. The Society is a show about a bunch of high school students who go on a school trip and return home to find the whole town empty. They also find that they are trapped here in the town with no connection to the outside world and no way to leave. The show blends sci-fi mystery elements with Lord of the Fly-esque political drama, resulting in a really satisfying to watch show where you're both invested in the mystery of what's going on with all this weird stuff in the town and how did they get there, but also heavily invested in seeing can these high school students actually survive by working together, or will everything end up in anarchy? We're going to talk more about the show in a moment, but let's first answer the question of why was it cancelled? The show had a great premise, good actors, and was received very well by fans. With all of that, surely that would have greenlit a second season, right? Well, in this case, yes, they actually did get a second season. So why are we saying that it got cancelled? Take a look at this announcement video for season 2 and comment down below if you notice anything interesting that would explain why this ended up not happening.
To the citizens of New Haven,
we have some big news.
Really big. Like, bigger than that time Gordon figured out we were in a parallel universe.
We're making season 2 of The Society. Ah!
Season 2.
Season 2?
Season 2 of The Society! Yeah!
Do you know what this means?
More pie?
More fugitive!
More memes.
And more answers about Charlie.
And Becca's baby daddy.
And Griz's hair. It's full of secrets.
We love you guys so much.
And can't wait for you guys to see what happens next. It'll be worth the wait.
Did you catch that? Take a closer look at that date. Coming in 2020. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen that year that would result in a show being cancelled. As you might already know, The Society was unfortunately released in 2019, the year right before the whole world shut down, and that shutdown also destroyed any chance of us getting a season 2. Despite it already being announced, Netflix would later have to cancel production due to just how large the cast was and unable to have that large of a cast during lockdown restrictions. So the actors were let out of their contracts so they could pursue other projects, and we never got answers to our burning questions left from the finale of the show. So why does this matter after 6 years? Well, The Society still has a large fan base. Many people around my age in their early to mid 20s have probably seen and enjoyed the show, and just based off the amount of times I've heard it brought up amongst people that I know personally or just strangers that I've met just out in my normal life talking to people, it's interesting to see like a show that only got one season that was released somewhat long ago, 6 years ago now, but still seems to be fondly remembered. And after rewatching the show now 6 years later, I can say that this show had huge potential to be a massive hit. The Society does a great job at implying a lot of interesting questions like what happens if you give people the basic comforts of life like electricity, water, plumbing, a stockpile of supplies, access to a large amount of knowledge, and no real reason to not be able to thrive. Essentially, all the kids had to do was they needed to do some basic rationing and a little bit of work to maintain a high standard of living. One of my favorite things about watching the show is how I often ask myself, what would I do in this situation and would I have been able to do it better? And maybe it's just my ego talking, but basically in every situation that I see these kids in, I feel like I could have done a lot better, but obviously it's a show, so there's nothing I can do. But I do really think that this show does a great job at asking and showcasing various ethical and societal topics such as gun control, trust in the government, domestic abuse, the death penalty, and especially the idea of socialism, which plays a big role in this show. I feel like the show did a good job at showing these ideas, but not necessarily saying which of these ideas were right, like what side did they come off as. Now, with the socialism one, you might at first glance think that the creators of the show are advocating for socialism and trying to show that this could be a utopia if people just followed along with it. However, I think if you look a little bit closer, there's a lot of elements of the show that showcase the flaws of socialism. So I like that it's not a clear answer to whether it be, great, it's like a whole utopia, or it's, the terrible hellscape that, people like to portray it as. And that's just one example. I feel like they did a great job with all these different heavy topics that, are often talked about still to this day. And we're really able to have a more nuanced approach to these topics. One particular topic that I think was really handled well was with the gun control debate. And even though I thought they could have gone a bit further with it, I really do love this conversation between Helena and Allie, who have this difficult conversation about who should have this power.
Luke doesn't even know where I keep the guns. He can't even find them in a house he knows.
What's your point, Helena?
Anyone who wants to hide a gun from you can do it. You'll only get these from the people who want you to find them.
All the people, I gotta say, it just seems a little inconsistent with the whole preaching in a church thing.
Praying helps with some things. Others you have to take into your own hands.
What are you gonna do with it? You gonna go hunt down a bad guy? You gonna do a shootout on the street?
No.
Then what? Guns don't keep people safe. They get people killed.
Can you promise you can keep me safe?
You know I can't do that.
Then no. You can't have it. And what are you planning to do with all of them anyway? All these guns you collect? It's not that I don't trust you, but why should you be the only person in town with an arsenal?
I'm going to destroy them.
Well, not mine.
This scene I think was really well done. I think it gives a nuanced approach to gun control. Obviously there's clear and reasonable reasons why they're trying to impose this gun control, but there's also clear and objective reasons why maybe that's not the right approach to handle this situation. And these are the same kind of discussions that we have to this day, but just blown up into a bigger proportion when we take a look at a whole country as opposed to a small town with just high school students. So I think it's really interesting to take these big topics and boil it down to the core ideas of them and showcase how it would work within this society where, you're not really worried about stuff like electricity, water, plumbing, that kind of stuff, but you're more worried about other things and basically just existing with the people around you. That's the biggest threat to these kids right now. It's just all their kids that are around them. In this show, there's clearly good guys and bad guys, but something I really appreciate this show is that everyone outside of Campbell is more of a gray character rather than just being strictly good or bad. This is kind of similar to what I talked about with the different societal topics that they go over. They don't try to make it so that, anything is purely good or purely bad. There's a lot of nuance to this, and same thing with the characters here, which has helped make all these characters a lot more interesting and complex. For example, while you are clearly meant to root for Allie as she's the main character of the show, she makes a lot of decisions that start pushing her towards being more of an authoritarian, and it makes you feel very iffy about trying to support her. Obviously, you don't want to see anything bad to happen to her, and you kind of want her to succeed because that means that the town is succeeding. But at the same time, some of the things that she's doing in this role as being like the leader of the town after what happened to her sister end up with her being not a great leader, very much becoming an authoritarian. For example, let's bring it back to the gun control debate. After confiscating everyone's guns and she promises to the town that she's going to destroy them, she secretly keeps them for herself because she still wants to retain that power for herself. Now, there wasn't much impact from that decision in the first season, and I feel like if we had gotten a season 2, they probably would have gone a little bit further down that route. That stockpile of weapons probably being discovered and really turned the town against her, as you kind of already saw towards the end of the season with the whole coup, which we'll talk about in a moment. The town was already starting to turn against her, but I feel like that could have been the thing that would really turn everyone against her, and it would have been interesting to see how she grapples with that and what happens as a result of it. I think it's just so sad to see this show get canceled after introducing some very interesting ideas, like them being confirmed to be in another universe, where in their previous universe where all their family and parents and stuff live, they're just presumed to be dead. There's a wall that memorializes them, and their families have no idea what happened. And we still are kind of questioning, how did they even get there? We have no answers to that, 6 years later. There were other interesting concepts though with how the show ended, such as the military coup, which I mentioned a moment ago, and the locking up and imprisonment of political opponents. So many things from this show I feel have become more and more relevant as time has gone on. even especially recently with the political assassination of Charlie Kirk, which I want to stay focused on the show, so I don't want to go too off track talking about that, but there was a political assassination in this show as well, and I just couldn't help but make the connection as I was rewatching this. In relation to this though, there was one scene that, while I was rewatching it this time, truly captivated me in a way that it didn't captivate me the first time I watched this scene. And I think it's because people are now having to ask themselves this same question regarding if they should continue to speak out, even if it means that they will be killed next, like Charlie Kirk. In this scene, we see Allie dealing with the request for her now to take over her sister's place to lead the town after her sister was assassinated by someone that, at the time of this scene, we have no idea who it is, and the person hasn't been caught at the time of this happening.
You're killing me. You get that, right? They'll shoot me, just like they shot her. That's what you're asking me, to die for you.
We won't let that happen.
You can't say that!
This scene, now over 6 years old, just feels far more significant now with everything that's been going on in our real world. I think there's so much stuff that could have happened with a season 2. For example, we talked about how there was a kind of like that lingering plot thread with Allie deciding to keep the guns from the town and having like some kind of stockpile somewhere hidden. And obviously we ended the show with a military coup taking over the town. You could have maybe married those two ideas together with the military guys basically finding these weapons. They probably already knew where they were because Allie trusted them, back for most of the show before the coup happened. So maybe they start arming themselves and they truly become like a military imposing force, where instead of the authoritarian socialist view that we were looking at in season 1, maybe we're looking at full-on dictatorship in season 2. At this point, we're 6 years later, COVID's not really an issue anymore. There's nothing really holding back the show from being produced at this point, but I feel like just because of how large the cast was, trying to get everyone wrangled back together to start making the show again, I think it's just too hard for Netflix and the producers to make work, which is really sad because I feel like there's just so much potential for this. And I think despite it having such an unsatisfying end due to the cancellation and having all these unanswered questions, I still think the show is worth watching and rewatching just to enjoy the drama that the show has to offer, and I think it's just really solidly made, at least for the one season that we got. But let me know in the comments below, have you seen The Society? And what do you think would happen next in a season 2? I'd love to hear all y'all's thoughts in the comments below, but if you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you left a like and subscribed. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye y'all.